Oh, let's break it.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the podcast, our first live recording here on Twitch. God help us. Welcome, everybody, to Let's Break It Down, an Overwatch League podcast, where we come at you every week straight to your ear holes, bringing you the latest, the greatest, the very bestest in Overwatch League scores, results, news, and analysis. My name is Amicus, joined as always by my co-host Riggs. What's going on, buddy?
He's got the mic muted.
He has got his mic muted.
I'm sorry.
Classic.
It's classic Riggs. I gotta mess it up just once. That'll be my only glitch for the whole thing. Watch. You told me to move my mic, man. I blame you.
Yeah, it's super fitting that this is actually a live episode because this is probably my worst sponsor to date. But this week's episode is not brought to you by Jif Peanut Butter. Choosy moms choose Jif and this podcast. We have, I know you liked that one, Riggs. Don't even lie. Got a special guest this week. I want to introduce my buddy, Messi, Joe Messina. What's going on, buddy?
Nothing much. And you guys shouldn't beat yourselves up. Whenever I did a podcast for Project M, it was pretty much inevitable that someone's mic was off and the sound wasn't working right for the first
It's
minute.
part of the charm,
and the intros
right?
go cold. Yeah.
It's part of the charm.
We could just never get it right. So
And in my defense, I'm using a headset I haven't used in like a month. So like the previous one I was using didn't have the mute setting. So
it's not like riding a bike.
It's getting back used to the headset.
I think the old mic sounds better. So, I mean, I think it's a net positive, even with the mute fiasco. Fiasco's kind of strong. I shouldn't say that. So buddy Messi joining the podcast for the first time. Appreciate it, dude.
No, absolutely.
Enthusiastic member of the Smash community for several years, starting to branch out into some other esports, including Overwatch, and has some pretty cool stuff to talk about with regards to NYXL. So, gentlemen,
I look forward to it.
How's your week been going?
Pretty good. Been digging that Retribution event, man. How about you?
Dude, it's so good. I think it's better than Uprising last year.
Oh, it's so much better than Uprising. I'm having so much fun with it.
It's too short. It's too short.
I agree.
It is short. It is short. But the one thing that I hate is like you get to the end, and I was on it with a friend of mine who's like Grandmaster ranked, and he carried me through the expert one. We got all the way through that freaking final heavy assault. All we had to do was get on the damn ship and leave. But no, Genji had to go be a hero. So we had to go get Genji, and that got the whole freaking team wiped because there's 4 heavy assaults down there, 3 snipers, got only assassins and troops. It was a nightmare, dude.
I
almost had it completed on expert.
There are so many memes around that part of the Retribution event that get on the ship.
Well, see, I don't understand why they didn't just do it Left 4 Dead style, where if you don't get on the ship, you're just
screw them, let them go. Yeah,
like they're like, okay, you had a timer, you had your chance, and you're just dead now.
Because you can't leave Genji; he's still in the game.
Oh, I guess because it's got to be lore friendly. I guess
he's already a cyborg; he could be fixed.
And then they left Jesse McCree. Like you can't. What? That's not how it went.
That's how he lost his arm.
Okay. Fair for the base mode, but for the all heroes mode, you should absolutely be able to leave somebody behind. That is not canon.
Well, this wasn't even
I also think in the canon that all of those characters are a little bit more of a team player than the asshole Genji that I meet randomly online.
I've been working on my Genji for competitive play. It's changed me as a person. So it's definitely Genji. It's his fault. He makes you into something you don't want to be.
You want to know how much of a trash player I am? I saw this PvE event as the chance for me to practice my Genji because I can't do it against real people or even bots, really. I have to do it against the cannon fodder on easy Retribution.
I've been doing the same. What really made me feel good about that expert almost completion though was that I did it on Moira, and you know how horrible I am with any kind of a support hero. So to be able to do that on Moira made me feel pretty proud.
That's so funny. I love that I love the differences in terms of like competitiveness. It's like being happy over an almost complete. I would have lost sleep. Like I would have just been sweating. Like I can't believe we blew it.
Well, like there's never going to be a time where I like complete that expert. I know that, like legendary. I see that as for the pros. Like it'll never be within my reach.
Actually, the other day, Mess, I think Saturday after you left the group, I was still in the group, and they were like, "Hey, let's do Retribution," and they immediately queued up for Legendary, and I was like, "I'm not down for that, like whatsoever." And they're like, "No, it's easy, it's like a walk in the park," and we couldn't even get out of the first room, and I'm like, "Guys, what are we doing here? This is crazy."
I was gonna say you and me tried it, and yeah, we didn't get out of the first room. Like we both got one shotted, I think, by enforcers, and it was just over.
I mean, if you were still with Little Turtle, who's a Project M player, or was, I haven't seen him around too much, but he's really good. Like, I'm sure he tried his damnedest. That's probably why he was like, let's do a legendary. It's probably easy.
It didn't help that I think
Boyko is new, and like Cat is relatively new, so like I could see why there was hiccups.
I think it was our Genji also DC'd in the first room, so
it's done.
Yeah, done. Just like over, done. What else you guys been doing this week? I know you've been playing Sea of Thieves, Riggs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've been hitting the high seas a lot. I'm inching closer to Pirate
the
Legend
high seas.
Yeah, emphasis there. But
double entendre.
I've gotten to level 50 in my merchant there. I'm high 30s with everything else, so I'm getting really close to getting that Pirate Legend and doing it legit. No loopholes, no farming golden animals or whatever. I just straight am doing voyages, so
a pirate
taking me a little bit
follows
longer.
The rules. That's admirable.
Yep. Follow the code and I'm getting it done, man.
I mean, I like it, I guess, the bit that I've played, but I would definitely probably never play it by myself.
Not a shot. I got on the Sea of Thieves bandwagon with the Game Pass, and like after 3 days, I was like, 4 hours worth of content on here.
Yep.
Yeah, that was it. There's
no way a lot of it is the PvP play, but I'm looking forward to the fact that they've already mentioned they're dropping more content in May here, again followed by another patch in June and July. So 3 more content patches are coming in the next few months. So I mean, the game is going to be expanding here soon. It's had a bit of a slow start, but yeah, that PvP is what's been making it probably the most fun for me. I just love getting around a ship and ruining someone's day.
I just really want to get a full galleon of guys and get shit-faced in-game and IRL.
I'm already working on it for you, bro. I put out the
squad goals.
The calls for a crew this weekend for you at the very least, if nothing else.
Cool.
Can't get it sooner.
Cool. Well, let's move on to Overwatch League. We got a lot of stuff to cover. Excuse me. Apologies to our regular listeners. We're actually a week late. I think we missed last week.
Yeah, we're terribly sorry about that, guys. We had kind of a scheduling conflict come up with Cabo and stuff. We tried to get one done. It didn't work out. To be honest, the news was so overwhelming going on around first week. I think it's kind of been better that we've had the extra week to prepare and kind of gather it all up, sort it out, and make sure all the facts and everything are straight for you guys. I mean, just so much has happened. It's not even funny. This is probably going to be an episode mostly about the news. I mean, we're going to go over the scores here, I think, just to get started. But week 1, Shanghai Dragons opened us up against the Dallas Fuel and continued to be the Shanghai Dragons. I honestly was looking forward to seeing Gaguri and some of their new players coming in. I was kind of curious as to how the loss of Undead was going to play out, and honestly, it just makes this team look that much worse. I've now gotten on to the thing that as much as I'd love to see Shanghai win a game, I don't think they're ever going to win. Not at the rate they're going.
Which is crazy, right? Because it's like, what, 40 games in the season?
Yeah, and you think you'd be able to at least win one, but like when Dallas comes out and stomps you the way that they did, like, okay, you can't beat Dallas. There's no way you're going to beat anyone else in the league.
I don't know.
It's early, right?
Dallas is one of those teams though that has been so
unpredictable.
like
I'll give you that.
like they just it's amazing. They'll hang out with every good team and push them, take games off, and then against every bad team they look like a bad Dallas team. They play up to their competition so much. And
It's
Dallas and Shanghai
ridiculous.
have the same ailment of a roster that's constantly overturning and changes being made behind the scenes and new managers and coaches and all this other stuff is going on. It's like, how do you expect a team that's 0-22 now, what, 0-24, like to like be able to comprehend all the changes going around them and build chemistry with a new, a couple new additions? And I don't know. I actually think their best shot of winning is coming up against Florida. Like that's gonna be
Well, yeah,
might be the only shot they have.
and honestly, if they can't beat Florida, then
Then you can really say I can't see a win. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, like, yes, that would obviously be really a bad look for them. You still got to remember, I think, that it's probably like half or more of the active roster has been replaced. Like it's basically almost a whole new team. So if you think about it, like pretend this is not stage 3, but stage 1 of this new Shanghai team, we wouldn't be calling it quits after like, an 0-4 start. Like that's bad, but give them like 3-4 weeks to kind of mesh. They're already out of playoffs. Like it's a mathematical impossibility. So at this point, it's like, guys, let's just pick up like 10 wins to like finish off the season to at least have some sort of like a death throw.
That's kind of where I am with Florida. I mean, and I think they'll honestly do that, but I don't know. At this point, I'm starting to lose hope in Shanghai picking up even a couple wins before the end of the season anymore.
I'm agreeing with Nick though. There's just so much turnover that it's hard to
We'll see what happens, but
I don't know. It feels like every team has like either overreacted or done nothing. There's no in between of like that's a very knowledgeable like idea for a team that's struggling. It's like no, kick everyone out, restructure, get a whole entire new roster. It's like it's the first season, like
yep.
And I believe Shanghai wasn't like a strong previous roster brought from China either. They had another team they could have brought that was a stronger roster, and they just like opted for just other players, which was really really weird from the start. That I don't even know if they actually played together before Overwatch League. So there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff they need to sort out, and now you're changing the roster on them again.
From everything that I saw from people talking about like Weibo tweets and everything, there was a lot of discontent from Chinese fans at the start of the league because Shanghai wasn't even the best team that China could have produced.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't.
And then, you've got all this roster turnover and Undead leaving and all these Korean players coming in, not to mention the language barrier. I was watching an interview with Geggery today where she was talking about, they were like, how is it? And she's like, it's a brand new team. We got to build up chemistry. And she's like, and she was kind of laughing. She's like, also Chinese is really hard. And that was kind of funny for me because I'm like, I think Korean's really hard. I've tried to learn it a little bit, and that's ridiculous for me. And then she's saying that Chinese is hard to learn. And that's just another thing that people have to keep in mind with this team.
Yeah. Well, ending out day 1 of week 1, we had a couple upsets. I mean, I don't know if I'd really call the Los Angeles Valiant victory over the Dynasty an upset. They've both been strong teams,
but
kind
of
throughout the season. Nice. 4-0 was kind of surprising to me. Yeah. I mean, Los Angeles is just coming out this stage and dominating. I don't know what happened between stage 2 and 3 that they just clicked and they've got it all together, but they're looking solid as hell now.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, has there ever been a more fraudulent 4-0 start? But then you were complimenting them so much. They haven't really played like they haven't gotten against the people that we have to really gauge them by yet. But 4-0 is better than what I'm saying. They could be 2-2, and then you're like they just trash like they've been.
Oh no! I'm talking about simply just a 4-0 victory over the Dynasty. I mean, Dynasty is a pretty respectable team. I mean. Yeah, they've got their problems too. They've got some kinks to work out as well. Just every team does.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like Valiant might be starting to work those out. To come out and put up a victory like that against Seoul as your opening for stage 3, that's pretty decent. Like I was pretty impressed.
Yep. For sure.
Strong play by Soon. They kept Fleta in check the entire time. It was pretty cool. I think people are starting to finally come up with an answer for Fleta.
Some teams more than others.
Yeah, some teams more than others, but definitely, I think people are starting to figure him out, and getting that Swiss Army knife going, okay, well, if we do this, we know he's going to do this, and they're figuring out how to start countering it. So that was kind of an interesting game to watch. But following that was, I think, probably the most interesting game of the day, just because I don't think anybody on the planet saw San Francisco beating the Gladiators. I mean, Fisher and those Gladiators have been so strong in stage 2. Coming into stage 3, I know that they were strong favorites for, probably end of stage playoffs. And just San Francisco comes out and lays waste to them.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm always surprised when San Francisco wins.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. I mean,
love you, Gooch.
Yeah, I love you, Gooch, but I'm sorry, man. Like, even with some of their additions, you're looking at Sinatra's struggle, at the end of stage 2 there, when he debuted. And honestly, I didn't see him beating the Gladiators. I never saw this in a million years was going to happen. So, yeah, hats off to the San Francisco Shock on that win. I think you surprised the entire world with that one. Everyone wasn't talking about the Valiant crushing Dynasty anymore. It was all about the Shock and the Gladiators.
Yep.
I don't know if it was Dialosa that said, like, one of the struggles of, like, some of these teams that are making transactions and trades or that did is they might be improving, but, like, every other team is also getting so much better faster.
Yep. And
Overwatch League has this really steep drop off of, like, if you're not in the middle of the pack, you are awful. Like, it's such a steep from like Soul, like you were saying, Soul Dynasty is like, oh, they're a solid team. They're like 6th or 7th right now. Like, if you break down all the teams, and that's insane when you think about coming out of preseason and into where we are now, that they're the middle of the pack. Like, they're the gatekeeper of getting you into the playoffs, which is ridiculous to think about. Like, if you're a Shock or a Florida and Dallas and all that stuff, like, oh, you have to get better, but you also have to get through teams that probably could 4-0 you if they're on their game.
And I mean, I know people that were predicting Soul to be at the spot that NYXL is in right now, top of the league with like an iron grip.
Well, come on.
Let's
not get too crazy.
But I was actually thinking about this earlier.
Preseason, every analyst said that.
Mm-hmm.
Lunatic High.
They were definitely the favorites. Yeah.
I was thinking about this earlier, though. I mean, when you kind of think about it, and this is just me being kind of harsh on my team Houston, and I guess I can't really say that looking at the stage standings right now, but it kind of feels like most teams have been consistent. Like, the top teams have stayed pretty much the top teams, and the bottom teams have pretty much stayed the same. Except when I look at Houston, they kind of started out on such a high in stage 1, and they've just been steadily kind of tanking for the last 6 weeks.
I feel like the opposite of it. I feel like if you really take out maybe one team, which is New York, ironically, like I feel like every single team has been a revolving door to join them at that top tier discussion. Like, Philly came out of nowhere. Look at Boston right now. Boston looks like one of the strongest teams in the league right now. Houston was projected to be one of those strong teams. London got the clapback so hard after stage 2 finals when they won stage 1 finals when they remet with New York. They just got 4-0'd. Like, there are so many like good teams at the top echelon that are revolving, like a revolving door. They're just taking turns of like who's supposed to be making into the playoffs. And I don't know, Houston, I think we talked about it. Like, I don't know if you want to get into it now with Jake and Tracer stuff, like, but we could do it after you go over the scores and whatnot.
Yeah, we'll blaze
Houston's
such
an interesting
quick.
Yeah, Houston's such an interesting team.
So because they do their own thing, for better or worse. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, like you said, let's blaze through these scores real quick. I mean, finishing out the rest of the week, Florida, once again, played well, not well enough. That seems to be their go-to anymore.
I mean, it's New York. 4-0 is kind of expected.
Yeah, but it was a really close game. It was really fun to watch. Honestly, I loved what I saw as a player in this game. But yeah, Philadelphia against Boston was the next game. Went 5 rounds. Boston ended up coming out on top. with a really strong, surprising win. I mean, obviously the return of Gamzu seems to be livening that crew back up, and like you said, they're just an amazingly strong team. And then wrapping up the end of day 2, London Spitfire fell to the Houston Outlaws. I don't think a lot of people saw that one coming, but I mean, Houston has been strong against really good teams before, so I don't think this was that crazy a surprising win. I think it was a must win for Houston. I think it helps to build some confidence going forward. Maybe they can get off that roller coaster, and stop the ups and downs. But
and the really interesting thing for me with this win is London has now lost 6 matches. 3 of them have been to Houston. They have,
yeah,
I don't think they've beaten Houston yet, except for that stage 1 playoffs.
well, I mean, they're already calling Houston London's Achilles heel.
Yep.
Like it's the one team that London can't beat, no matter how many times they try.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But wrapping up the rest of the week, we had the Gladiators win over the Dallas Fuel.
Expected.
Yeah, but that was pretty expected. I don't think anybody questioned that one. Again, with the Los Angeles Valiant beating the Shanghai Dragons, I don't think anybody questioned that, or the Dynasty beating the Shock. Shock put up a good fight the last time they met, but it wasn't there this time. Philadelphia crushed the Florida Mayhem. As sad as that was, I really thought that Mayhem would come back strong against Philadelphia after the most recent loss to them, but they didn't. And Houston just got, for lack of a better way of saying it, man, spanked by Boston. It was sad, dude. It was sad.
Yep.
I don't know how else
No,
to say
totally.
But wrapping up the week was probably the best game of the week. I mean, probably the one that everybody wanted to see because of, the 1 and 2 teams of the league right now. XL versus London. As expected, though, XL didn't leave London without a beating. I mean, Prophet had some good kills there on the last map and was starting to go back into his murderous mode, but it just wasn't enough to stop SBB, Libero, and the rest of them. I mean, like I said, the hardest part with XL is you're really kind of dealing with 3 DPSers with those guys because you got to deal with Jonak too. Like you've got that Zenyatta that's just going to go crazy and snipe people. So it's like dealing with 2, long range snipers when you got to fight XL. So
yeah, for sure.
And London hasn't quite figured that one out yet. But Dosen, as much as you like to boast and brag and say how great you guys are and you're the best, you need to watch some of Jonak's stream and learn some stuff, bro.
I mean, it's always a surprise to me, right? Because it's like, yeah, XL are crazy strong. They've definitely figured out how to win and stay winning, but I never quite expected to be a 4-0 over these other Korean teams. It's like, I would think it would be at least a 3-1, 3-2 or something.
Okay, we'll get to it.
We'll get to it.
I'll give you some background on them.
But we'll move into the current week 2. So we're caught up now. Starting off with LA Gladiators taking the expected 4-0 over Shanghai. I think Shanghai, I mean, the new players have shown some promise. Geggery definitely knows her stuff on Diva. She's had some really great stall outs, especially on defense. But I mean, it's a huge shakeup of the roster, and they need time to meld. Luckily, monkey is a universal word, so they've got that going for them with the language barrier. But
I will give it to Ado in this one, or Otto, however you want to pronounce it. I've heard it go either way, but he showed a lot of promise. Like he really seemed like he might be the guy that could step up and fill in Dud's shoes. And I was really glad to see the return of Dia this week. That definitely helped them out a lot. I mean, they're getting there. They just need to average more than 1 map point, or 1 map win a week. Like, they're never going to get a win with just 1 point a week.
Yep, no doubt. Then we got SF Shock falling 0-4 to LA Valiant. Again, pretty expected. Valiant's been showing up pretty well this stage.
Well, and the addition of Bunny, from Dynasty has been helping them out a lot. They don't have to rely on Soon so much for the Tracer. Bunny had a hell of a week. I can't say it any other way.
Is that the best trade so far?
I think it's
arguable,
one of them.
Yeah.
right? I feel like they almost King's Ransom did, right? Like I don't see any
It's right
cons.
up there. It's right up there with the Fisher trade. Like they couldn't have gotten better, you know.
It's such a foreign concept to me as a Houston fan when you have a good tracer on your lineup. Like it does wonders for you.
Save it. We're almost there. We can talk
I,
about it.
I was gonna say it makes you wonder why Houston didn't get their foot in that door, right?
All right, we're almost there.
We're gonna almost talk about it. We're gonna talk about it.
And exactly what we were just saying about the Dallas Fuel. They play to their competition. They go up against Seoul Dynasty, and they take it all the way to the 5th map, down to the wire, 3-2. Like that was a winnable match for them, and they just couldn't pull it out.
This was an extremely close map too. I mean,
it seems like every time these two teams play.
And the really sad part was like Seoul was making noticeable mistakes, like big things that Dallas could have capitalized on it, but they just failed to do. And again, they're kind of like floored with that. You know, it's like you need to be able to capitalize on those mistakes. You need to be able to gain ground, make your pushes, realize that, oh my God, that guy popped his ult way too early. Let's go. You know, just little things like that. And it's not like the dynasty to make those mistakes, but you know, they're starting to do that this stage. They're not coming out strong like they have in the previous stages and trying to make this undefeated, you know, attempt to get through the stage. I don't know what's going on with the dynasty, but like this was a seriously winnable game for the Fuel with the dynasty's mistakes, and they just still couldn't capitalize on it.
Dynasty's in 6th place. They're only 2 spots ahead of Fuel. Like another loss or 2,
you, dude,
and they're dropping in the bottom half.
It's a mid-tier nightmare. It's
a total slugfest.
You were talking about, like, that's why I said I feel like it's the opposite of, oh, it seems like the teams at the top sit. No, I feel like every team at the top, with the exception of New York, has had such a struggle holding on to what we consider those playoff spots. Like, we might go into stage 3 with 2 new members to the playoffs. Like, after stage 2 having that exact thing come out, and was it 2 new members in the playoffs stage 2?
Just
Philly
one.
and
Philly.
Okay, Philly. So you might have 2. Boston might be in there. LA Valiant might be in there.
That would
Philly
be interesting.
Philly's got to fight to get back in there. New York is not guaranteed in there yet either. I mean,
They're
they have the hard part
now.
of their schedule coming up right now.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, just look at the next game. Boston beats New York XL 3-2.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody saw that coming. You know, especially with some of the news, when we get to it, you'll understand why. But I don't think anybody saw Boston coming out this week being as strong as they were, especially being able to, you know, take on the New York XL and take a win from them.
Like that's huge.
If you guys don't mind, I would love to dig into Boston right now, because I think they are the most interesting team going forward.
Yeah.
If you want to clean up the scores right now, we can go to it.
But I think that's what. Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's what we're gonna probably go into first when we get to news. But just wrapping up the rest of the week, London beat Miami or beat the Mayhem.
They should be Miami. They should be the Miami Mayhem, dude. It didn't
Miami
even make sense.
Yeah,
why not, dude? What were they doing? The color schemes are terrible. Like, this is why they can't win. They look like just hot dogs walking out there with mustard everywhere.
If I ever own a team, I'll make like a general concept, and then I'll say, okay, Reddit, do your stuff. Show me how much better it can be, and I'm gonna take like community input.
Miami Mayhem, dude. That should have been the squad.
I will tip my hat to the Mayhem for getting the draw on the first map. They really looked like they were going to come out strong, maybe even do a reverse sweep and get the last 2 maps. But again, they continue to be the Mayhem.
You're so optimistic.
Fell short. Philadelphia Fusion beat the Outlaws 3-2, but
see, I feel like Philly are Houston's kryptonite.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, you know, Philly seems to be Houston's kryptonite.
They just can never beat them.
Yeah, that one team that Houston can't beat. Los Angeles Valiant beat the Dallas Fuel. This was probably the most exciting, or I shouldn't say exciting, but unexpected outcome of the entire week for me was Valiant, because of how strong they've been so far in this stage, getting a mere 2-1 victory over Dallas Fuel. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I think everybody expected that to be a 4-0, not a 2-1. But they did manage to pull out the win nonetheless. So still, it's another win in the Valiant's category. It's put them on top of the standings so far in this stage.
And you know what
San
that makes it
Francisco
time
Shock.
for?
What's
Makes
that?
it time for Shanghai's allotted 1-map win.
Yeah, that still didn't happen. Shock beat them 3-1. Seoul Dynasty lost to the Los Angeles Gladiators, but it was with the return of Fisher. Fisher sat out against the Shanghai Dragons. We actually saw the return of iRemix. Hadn't seen him since stage 1. So Fisher comes back, no problem beating Dynasty. Philadelphia beats London 3-2.
Man, London is
Honestly,
not having a good start to this stage.
Dude.
Yeah, but Philly's kind of been that way with London. You know, they're kind of like Houston in that sense that this is another team that London has struggled with.
They're having Vietnam flashbacks to the stage 2 playoffs.
Dude, it's like New York gives teams the death touch. Like every Korean team that's lost. Look what happened to Seoul after they lost to New York. It was like the blueprint was released.
Jesus.
Philly. I'm telling you, Philly's the scariest team. Philly's the only team that I worried about going into the playoffs. One of the people in chat, Cadronate, me and him watched the finals, and I told him like I don't like the matchup with Carpe. Like he scares me. He
Him
really
and
like
Carpe's
Shadowburn,
so good.
Duo.
yeah,
Duo
like
was
he
him
scares
and
me. Like I don't know what to do with him. Like he single-handedly carried Philly against New York the first time around. Like I don't know what we're gonna do, and then the levees broke on Philly after map 3. So
Yep.
But yeah, wrapping up the rest of the week, New York XL beat Houston Outlaws 3-2. Credit to Houston Outlaws for at least pushing it to that 5th map.
yeah, great job.
Sorry, dude. I think you're just kind of holding
so
off the inevitable.
You might be the strongest 1-3 team in history, though.
I know, right? But it was an interesting stat on the broadcast when they got to Route 66 and they had a chance to take the win. I think Monty was saying that in the entire season, Houston has never captured point B on Route 66. He's like, we are guaranteed to go to a map 5. And they started off strong on that control map, but they're just not a good team at control maps.
And finishing out the week, Florida Mayhem put up a hell of a fight against Boston, which
like that's
I
respect,
think,
man. That's impressive.
I think might arguably be the best team in this stage right now. Just with the last week, okay. In the last week, they probably put up the best performance in the last week out of any team.
Well, they're still like 11th place, dude.
Oh, I know. No. I'm talking about Boston.
I know you are.
So to push that, to a 5th map against an insanely good team like Boston, I again give credit to the Mayhem, but push it farther than coming close. Don't be like me getting excited about an almost completion. Get those damn wins already.
All right. So that's all the games out of the way. We wanted to kind of blaze through that because we want to talk about the news of the last 2 weeks and get into kind of Messi's take on NYXL's current situation. So we'll just go ahead and get like the big elephant out of the room. Obviously the Dream Casper situation. I'm sure everybody knows by now, but in case you're like living under a rock, Jonathan Dream Casper Sanchez was originally suspended and then the next day let go from Boston Uprising. There were some allegations of inappropriate communications with a minor. There were some allegations of explicit photographs. There's currently no proof of that. There's been no criminal charges that I know of that have been filed. But regardless, I mean, you can't have that kind of PR if you're a professional team. It's kind of just a whatchamacallit?
Well, yeah, I mean,
no
guilty or
questions asked,
not,
like,
yeah, guilty or not, they're gonna let him go. I mean,
Yeah, and that's the right move.
And honestly, I mean, I hate to say it, guilty or not, this just ended his career in esports. I mean, there's not going to be another team that picks him up. Doesn't matter what game he's playing. No one's going to touch him anymore. This is going to be a mark on his record
his
forever.
Life, though.
yeah.
I mean, okay. So the thing about that is, unless there's some way you prove without a benefit of a doubt, like that nothing actually happened and it was all fabricated, you're right. Like you have to take the risk of just letting him go and being wrong, right? And then you're like, oh, I'm sorry, we let you go and we didn't have the proof, rather than you held on to him. The allegations become charges, the charges become guilty, and then then you're gonna have to apologize to an entire fan base and entire a family and God knows who else for holding on to a player that you should never have held on to.
Especially when you got to remember that Boston is owned by Bob Kraft. Like this is the New England Patriots team.
There's no shot they were gonna hold on to.
And exactly, this is not some like startup entrepreneur, esports investment guy, never owned a team before. Like Bob Kraft knows what he's doing. The Patriots don't fuck around with PR.
No, not a shot. Like you can't. That's too much.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he really doesn't. Period. Not with any of his teams. I mean, you look at his football players. The second they get a slap on the hand by a police officer, he's out there making them do community service for the next, couple weeks, just to show people that person's not that way or whatever. He doesn't deal with any of this kind of stuff. I can't believe that Dreamcast ever thought he would get away with this if he did do it. Again, I'm not pointing fingers, not me to judge.
I think it was more just stupidity. Like he just didn't think about the consequences.
I honestly thought that the uprising and the league handled it pretty professionally, all things considered. They
didn't go into detail. They didn't name any names. Like it was just like
no
allegations of misconduct was, I think, what
this is like a constant talk in my Discord of like there's so many good things that esports organizations do with young players that, remember TSM a while ago was requiring players to hit the gym like 5 days a week or whatever it was. And you see the benefits of like these players becoming healthier and doing all that. There needs to be like a on-site therapist or like some sort of sports psychologist. And then you also just take away their phones. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, the amount of trouble, because you're giving, all right, professional athletes that are in their 20s, 30s, and sometimes 40s make so many mistakes on social media all the damn time, right? You're giving them to 17-year-old professional athletes now. That's in essence what you're doing.
And also,
Dream Casper's 21. Like, he has no idea what life's about.
And especially,
he has no idea. He just threw his away too.
Yeah.
I mean, especially a lot of these kids. I shouldn't say kids. That I hate when people say that. A lot of these players, they've never really lived out on their own before. They've certainly never been in the limelight before. There is no. It's starting to be some infrastructure, but right now there's no real developed college scene. They don't have this benefit of years kind of working up to this sort of stage. And professional athletes typically at least have some sort of baseline of PR media training from their organization.
Yeah, there has to be. Because with the traditional sports, like professional athlete, the thought process is, especially if they're like a number 1 draft pick or a first round draft pick, that throughout life they were just given whatever, like, high school they were a top recruit, people bent over backwards for them, colleges were trying to recruit them. So the reason they need that kind of help is because there is a little bit of entitlement for some of those players. Like they don't know how the real life works. Like they just assume that if they want it, they get it. And that can really change on a dime once you get to the pro level. With esports athletes, like there is a complete, almost out of body kind of experience when you're all of a sudden becoming the most popular players on the planet for a game after every single stereotype pins you as someone that is maybe not even out of the house too much, let alone now you're playing in front of 120,000 people on average. So, and people are throwing themselves at you. Like I'm not trying to say like, whatever happened, but there is going to be a lot of that. Like they're not ready for that. Look at Pine. Pine had to sit out the entire stage 2 because he just wasn't ready to be that popular that quickly.
And I mean, props to him for making that decision and prioritizing his mental health.
It's the whole reason I'm wearing my Pine jersey this week for the podcast. Was glad to see you back, bud. Like, glad you're getting through it. I'm glad the break helped. I love seeing him on stage. He's so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's starting to figure out how to get it back. Because I mean, honestly, I was really starting to think that this depression and anxiety would cause him to be just a 1-season player.
Well, and I really feel like anytime I hear about a team that does not have some sort of mental preparation, mental health coach, I just expect some sort of internal combustion to happen. I think it's absolutely a non-starter to not have a mental health professional as part of your support staff. If nothing else,
I think another thing that teams can consider doing, like what the Florida Mayhem are doing right now, what they did is actually set up a Discord for the team so that fans can go there, they can talk to players, all that stuff. All their Twitch streams are being funneled through that. They're being monitored by that. So none of the players are doing anything without any coaches or, their staff knowing about it. So anytime they do something that might be considered like, hey, well, they can go in there and be like, hey, calm that down,
Yeah.
Out of hand. But having that control over your players, their streams, their Twitch feeds, their Discords, everything like that, it seems to be helping them. Look at them. None of their players have ever been accused of anything, except being the nicest guys, great entrances, stuff like that. That's maybe a page that the rest of the league can learn from.
And it doesn't have to be like dictatorship, like total control, right? Just a baseline expectation of like a standard of behavior and an expectation for these are things that you can talk about and things that you're not supposed to disclose to the public.
Well,
I don't think this isn't like it's the first thing that's happened with Overwatch League either. It's season 1 and we've had suspensions, fines,
oh my God,
and removal of player. Like it's becoming like
it's becoming
hilarious. Like it's a meme.
Well,
it's becoming a joke.
Okay, another example of a news thing that happened on a stream here that we could talk about here for a second that could have been prevented had the team, and I'm not saying dictated it, but just monitor it. That's what I think what the Mayhem are doing with their monitoring through their Discord. So they're just monitoring it, just making sure these guys aren't overstepping things. They're not telling them what they can and can't stream or what they can and can't do. They're just telling them like, hey, if you do something wrong, we're going to let you know. They're just trying to help keep their noses clean. But EQO would not have gotten suspended for doing his insensitive gesture on his stream. He ended up missing the first 3 games of this stage so far because he was pretending to be Korean on his stream. You can't do that, man.
No, there's no. Unfortunately, there's no compass there. There's no. Oh, this isn't bad or whatever.
And I think for some of these guys, it might be a case of, oh, well, I'm not on stage. Like they're going to police my personal stream, and they don't quite understand that you are representing.
Yes,
you're on stage all the time.
Exactly.
They're going to police your Twitter. They're going to.
You are representing a product. You're representing hundreds of millions of dollars of investment. You need to represent that product in a positive light at all times.
Oh, dude, if New York Excel was giving me a salary job, I would be purging my stuff like I was about to get audited. Like, nope, can't have that. Nope, don't look at that. Oh, nope.
Turn my life into a CSI episode.
Seriously.
Take the black light out and shutter.
No. Woo.
I wanted to touch on Boston, but not the drama.
Needless to say, I was just gonna say, needless to say, since Dreamcasper is now gone and obviously not coming back, Boston has moved forward with mistakes.
Not like the noun, but like the person.
The player.
The only mistake this is his damn name. Okay. Like this guy, oh my God. I was blown away by mistakes.
I had never even heard of him before the Dreamcasper situation.
I was like, okay, they're coming in with this no-name dude mistakes, and he's just going to pick up where Dreamcasper left off. They're going to be good. No, Boston's out of the running from now on. And
this Dreamcasper was like the highlight. Everybody thought he was going to carry them to victory.
Guys,
they should have been playing mistakes all the time.
So here's my take on Boston. They are the most interesting team going forward because we mentioned mistakes, right? Something that a lot of people aren't talking about is that Dreamcasper was also the shot caller for Boston.
I did not know that.
So, and I heard a couple people talking about this, and something I'll add on to the fact, Mistakes is now the shot caller also. So he took over the spot completely. Boston's playing slower. They're playing more mechanically sound. And you have to wonder if Dreamcasper maybe wasn't a good shot caller. And that led to some of the issues they were having in terms of being more stable of a team. And another thing is, when Boston was recruited as a team, they were pretty much, I think, thought to be one of the worst teams in the league. They were in that conversation.
Yep.
Because they were all just random people.
They were random people, but
weren't a team at all.
Yeah, absolutely. But they were recruited with the idea of potential, not what they were right then and there. And it's kind of an interesting thing where you have to wonder, did Dreamcasper's shot calling stagnate the potential and the come up of some of these players? Now that he's gone, Mistakes maybe is a more compassionate voice. Maybe he's more of a calm, collected kind of guy when he's making the shot calls for his team. Kind of has this sense of like, we can do this, and all of a sudden you get a 4-0 start. The only other take I could have on this, and it's an old adage in sports of like the next man up. When someone gets hurt, someone gets suspended, someone gets traded, the next man up is supposed to be there. Well, the person that was on the bench obviously wasn't as good as the guy that was there before him. So it's a really funny saying, like, oh, next man up, as if it was that easy. If this is just a case of mistakes playing out of his mind because he knows he needs to pick up his game, then they're in trouble. Because eventually you will regress back to your mean and you'll be playing where you were, which was a bench player. But it is interesting. I think shot calling is the most unlooked at part of what's going on in Overwatch League. By the way, according to Raucus, Houston doesn't have a shot caller.
Really?
They just keep practicing, and
from what I understood, Raucus was the closest thing Houston had to a shot caller.
Well, if the closest thing isn't the thing, that's a problem. That could be it too. You don't really know, so you have to kind of look at some of these teams that have turned it around. Dallas just announced their new shot caller. What's his name? The tank.
OG.
OG. Not Mickey. OG.
Yep.
So and they've been playing better. It's not like they've gotten worse or they have been playing more consistently. It hasn't resulted in the wins they were hoping for, but you have to wonder if some of these teams need to readdress who's calling their shots. And yeah, Dreamcast's stats were phenomenal, but there is an idea of if he's the shot caller and he's calling the targets that he's on, or he's calling certain strategies that are more empowering to him than the rest of his team, that could have been an issue that Boston had that they didn't realize.
Yeah.
So I know shot caller is an issue for a lot of teams. I know Florida had that problem. They finally figured out that they would have Zebasai do it. They've been doing a lot better since they've had that. They've been a lot more solid a team. They closed out a few wins at the end of stage 2. They're looking strong, at least in stage 3, even though they haven't pulled a win yet. But it definitely seems to be helping when you get that solid shot caller.
So, I agree. And what people need to understand is that shot calling is probably the most difficult thing to juggle.
Oh, it's so difficult.
Like, because I hear it argued like, oh, how big a deal is it depending on what you're doing. So I used to play CS:GO or CS 1.6 back in the day, and I was the strat caller, and you would have about 15 seconds between rounds. So if you're the strat caller, you don't get those 15 seconds. You know what I'm saying? You're thinking about, what did I see the last round? What can I adjust to? And Overwatch is even more difficult in some cases because the rounds are just continuously going.
Yep.
If you're doing like a control map, like there's no actual stopping. You're consistently doing something, calling something. And unless you're getting a team kill or a complete wipe, you don't even have a second to think about what you can adjust on the fly. So, like, hats off to the shot callers that are doing an excellent job. But I think that might be the best thing that MessiNYC is going to bring to the table, is just a fresh outlook on how to play the game. Their dive looked really different after he took over.
Or maybe honestly, he just had a good week and they're in trouble.
No, that's what I'm saying. If he regresses back to just being mistakes, and this was all just him playing, kind of just trying to fill this, playing with just pure adrenaline of like, I need to fill this void, he might not mechanically be able to do that.
But you guys are forgetting this is also Robert Kraft's team, who found a gem in Tom Brady. So, I mean, he could have another one on his hands.
Get out of here with that Patriots shit, Riggs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will give the credit of, I do think their idea when forming the team was very publicly known of, we are going based off of what the future potential of the players is. So if they are lucky and all of a sudden this future potential just starts to kick in because they have a new shot caller and maybe there's a little bit of toxicity behind the scenes, who knows? Obviously, not everything is peachy keen on that side of the Overwatch League. That might be a big difference to let some of these players play stronger, play more like themselves. So it could be that.
Well, it definitely played for Striker. I mean, he had. I've been arguing since the start of the season that Striker needs to be ranked as a higher, tracer. Like that dude is just on like another level. He's kind of like SBB in that sense, where you can just let him go off and do his thing. You don't have to worry about Striker. He'll heal himself. He'll take care of himself, and he's going to jack up that back line like nobody's business and just go to town. But whatever MessiNYC was doing with that shot calling, I mean, like I said, I didn't even realize that he was calling the shots. I just thought he was trying to help, complement Striker the best he could, filling that role for Dreamcasper. But Striker had a hell of a week. Gomsu had a hell of a week. I mean, these are arguably some of the better players in their particular characters and positions. I honestly think that this is going to be a really good move for Boston going forward. I can't wait to see what they do the rest.
I mean, they're definitely off to a strong start so far.
Yeah, and Cadronate in the chat brought up like there is a new patch out there, but I think the patch only really hurt teams that were over reliant on the Mercy meta. The teams that like when they would
AKA
make a mistake,
Houston.
no, when they would make a mistake, no pun intended, like the Mercy would just fly in and erase it, right? Like it never existed. And now that isn't as feasible of an option if you're going to compete with these teams. And maybe we'll see, like as the stage 3 goes on, which teams were over reliant on Mercy and just can't actually close out wins because of it. But in terms of meta, in terms of like characters being played, it's been pretty much the same. I haven't seen too big of a difference in terms of hero pool.
Yeah. Yep.
I like that you're seeing Sombra more.
Yeah, I didn't know what was gonna happen to her because I felt like the whole health pack for ultimate
Yeah,
charge was
I
like
really
such a
thought that
safe
was
way
going
to
to
get it.
kill her. I thought that was going to kill her with the not getting the all charge, but it hasn't stopped people from playing her. I mean, they've turned her into an assassin now. I mean,
I'm just waiting for the Pro Torbjorn debut in the stage finals.
Well, if that happens, there's only one man that can do it, and that's
well,
Mangachu.
Torb
So he's gonna
got
have to
a
get called
buff.
up.
Torb got a buff. You might see him a little bit more because
no way.
Well, it wasn't a direct buff. It's an indirect buff that really benefits Torbjorn because he's not targeting their shields anymore. He's targeting the character.
I did see that. Yeah, the turret.
And that's going to be a lot better for Torbs moving forward.
Yeah. All right.
Because he won't waste time shooting that stupid Orisa shield that's sitting next to him and no one's hiding behind anymore. Yeah.
Every time I hear indirect buff, I'm like, what did they do to Blood Razor this time? Like, oh no.
But we did have some, like going into the news here, we had a bunch of publicity for the Overwatch League that I thought was kind of cool. SBB was scheduled to throw out the first pitch at the Mets game. It was unfortunately canceled due to the weather. Freak nor'easter, I guess, rained it out, right? If I'm correct there, Messi. I mean, you're
Yeah,
in New
it
York,
was right.
so you know.
No, yeah. So that was like a mess. I am a big baseball fan, and I just hate the fact that they decide to open up like baseball in March and April and not just schedule all the New York teams somewhere else. Like, it's still snowing. Like, what are you doing? Why are you scheduling games here? Here it's like 30 degrees one day, and you're scheduling baseball games. So it got rained out, but they still had the meet and greet, so they held that part of it.
Yeah, and I heard Pine was there for that too as well, which was cool because everybody was kind of question mark as to whether he was going to show up or not with what he was dealing with. So that was kind of like his initial step back in the door, getting back in the league, getting kind of back to his normal self, I think. And I think they just had a great time meeting fans and, you know, meeting their fellow, I guess in the sort of sense, teammates, because XL is owned by the owner of the Mets, right?
Jeff Wilpon.
Jeff Wilpon.
Yeah, so basically, you know, fellow teammates in a sense, you know, same owner. So that was kind of cool. I mean,
they did a better job promoting the New York Excelsior than they do promoting the Mets.
Well,
that's not a joke. That isn't a crack at the Mets.
The New York XL is winning right now.
No. The Mets are off to the best start in franchise history, actually. And I'm a Yankee fan, but I can admit it.
Like 4 games.
Damn.
I think they're 13-1. So I got to give props to them. But what's so funny is the Mets are awful at PR, like in New York, and like other radio stations and stuff will just talk about it all the time how bad they are. And then like Jeff Wilpon like owns an Overwatch team, and he's like, yeah, first pitch, meet and greet. Let's give stuff out. Let's just do everything proper. And you're like, God, man, you only put like 20 million, maybe 25 into this team. You put hundreds of millions into the Mets. Figure it out. Like, good Lord.
Maybe he's just like, you know, it PRs itself, man. Everybody knows the Mets.
But, you know, with the first pitch not happening, it didn't stop the Overwatch League from continuing to get its name out there. Raucus and Jake ended up making an appearance on the Today Show. I don't know if you guys watched that clip or not, but it was hilarious. I mean, it's like,
so when I
tried to explain the Overwatch League to my dad, that's exactly how that conversation went.
So I actually have I have the clip pulled up. Let me see if I can get it on here.
I don't know if you want to play the whole thing. I think it's like a 10-minute segment.
I was just gonna play the intro because I just thought it was so cringy.
And we're back now with two faces of the future of sports, and it is nowhere near appeal.
Oh, it's not working.
Online. Joining me now,
All right, we're out.
Abandoned.
But it was nice
Abort.
to actually get them to be able to talk about, esports on, probably one of the most public stage esports has probably ever been on. I mean, the Today Show is watched by millions of people.
Okay,
Millions of people.
Yes, but I have such strong opinions about this segment. So I have spent the past year basically trying to explain esports to normies, like the most. Yeah. And I've watched a lot of these news segments. I've taken clips from these interviews. I've showed them to people, and you get the same questions, the same tones every single time. Yes, the exposure is awesome. And yes, it's super cool to see Jake and Raucus on the Today Show. But before I even clicked play on the video, you look at the title and it's like, meet two kids that are living the dream, playing games for a living. And it's like, they're like 22 and 24. Like, how fucking condescending can you be? And then
do you get to have cereal for dinner?
Yeah, exactly. And she said stuff like, man, there was a Houston business guy, for the Outlaws, one of the support staff or whatever in the audience. And Megan Kelly's asking him, she's like, so, what is this like bringing this industry to a new level of professionalism, getting these kids out of the basement and into proper training facilities. And I'm just like, you have not done one lick of background or homework or anything on this. And the kicker for me that I couldn't believe, not even basic research on who you're interviewing. I know it was only a 10-minute segment, but her last question, Raucus, bless his soul, was kind of nervous, obviously, like I would be. Jake's had kind of some media training in the past. He did a lot of the talking. And so Megan's nicely trying to get Raucus part of the conversation. And she's like, so Raucus, what do your parents think about this? And it's like, dude, Raucus's dad just died 5 weeks ago. And you can see him immediately look down at the ground. And then Jake, love him, immediately jumped in and started talking about his parents and the fans and everything. And it was just lady, come on, man. That's so
it's so
rough.
Bad, dude. It's so bad.
And then
not to even cut you off, but
go.
Tafokins is part of the Smash community. He's very popular. He's pretty much famous for making stats a part and analytics part of the Super Smash Bros. Melee community. He just left his job at NASA to join CLG, to do stuff. So this idea of get him out of the basement and their children and all this stuff, it's dude, come on. Google search him. That's all you had to do.
What I always tell people is, I'm gonna forget the actual figure, but it's something like 2 or 3 billion people play some form of video game on the planet, whether it's mobile, console, whatever. But basically, just about every half of functioning adults play games. And it's guys, when you have that much of a cross section of the human species, you're going to get every single type of person. You're going to get the basement dwellers. You're going to get the rich people. You're going to get smart, dumb, fat, small, short, tall. You can't stereotype it because it's this big. You just can't. And
it's so weird too, because I feel the stereotyping always goes one direction too. Because in high school, I played a lot of sports and played video games.
Me too.
And it was always the negative side of it. It was never all the video game friends were oh, that's dope that you play hockey and you play football. But then the hockey football people were just why would you spend so much time playing video games? It doesn't go both ways. It's so weird how it works that way.
One of my favorite quotes, actually, just a random person, but Blizzard did a 10-year anniversary World of Warcraft documentary or something, and they were interviewing a guy at BlizzCon. And he was look at all these people around. Times are changing. And he's maybe, 10, 20 years from now, the kids that are playing sports outside, those are the ones the parents are going to be worried about. And I was we can dream, man. That's the dream. But, props to Jake and Raucus for taking it all in stride and just definitely being good ambassadors for the scene and Overwatch League in general. I think those were two of the best guys you could have picked to kind of put a face to the league. And they were very patient and respectfully kind of turning around some of those stereotypes. Megyn Kelly at one point literally asked, like, who are the fans? And they're just like, what? Who are the fans that watch you guys? They're people. And they showed like a shot of the crowd for like 2 seconds. And she's like, a lot of dudes out there, kind of a sausage party. And Jake's like, well, actually, I mean, Overwatch in general is very diverse in the fan base. So, yeah, not quite so much, but
the whole game is built on diversity too.
And I mean,
like, they try so hard to make sure everyone feels like included in that roster, and in the way that characters are represented and the backstories. And it's just like, please, Google, it's on your phone.
I know.
I mean, that was like kind of the stupidest question too, because like honestly, I think if you ask any Overwatch player, they'll tell you this straight up. Like if you're in a match game with comms, you know, there's one girl on those comms with you.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
At the bare minimum, there's one.
Yeah, it happens all the time. I six stack with a female player all the time, like as much as I can. I mean, Nick's played with her. Like, I don't understand where this idea is. The other day it was 3-3. It was 3 guys, 3 girls. There's nothing war. Well, I don't understand why it's even a big deal. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's just.
I guess it's not if you're still in the community. Like if you're still actively in the gaming community, you're realizing like, oh, this is pretty dope. Like, there's so many different kinds of people here. And if you're still from the outside looking in, there's just this perception of like it's just dudes.
I think it's the same as the bully hunters issue from the past week in CSGO, where I know I had to bring it up, man, but you've got people trying to make moves in the industry and they know nothing about it. And it's like, you're just perpetuating the same story because you don't want to do your own original research. It's just like, well,
there's nothing worse.
This one article says it's all dudes that harass people and that's it. And it's like, well, I guess that one dude must be right because, you know, he's 60 and he's played a bunch of video games, right? So he knows what's going on.
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, I
guess...
guess...
Nothing worse than people with a lot of money that don't know how to spend it. Nothing worse.
I mean, I guess all we can hope for is, like, I don't know, more of these segments that maybe get a little bit better every time. But I think traditional media is always going to struggle with this because it's like, yo... Before there was ever any talk of money or investment or anything, this was a grassroots industry. Like, they were doing world championships in hotel ballrooms. Like, we don't need mainstream media or
it just helps.
It helps, but it's like, yo, if we need something, we're gonna make it happen.
Smash goes through that. It's so weird. Like,
FGC in particular is super grassroots.
FGC is so weird because it's almost like you have different segments of esports going through different segments of time. You're almost looking into the past, right? Like, the FGC is still struggling to get to the point where, you know, CSGO, League of Legends, Dota, all these different games are Overwatch. And then you have the FGC, which is still like steps behind. And then you have Smash, which is like further behind than the FGC in some cases. Like, it's so weird how that happens. And then you just have subcultures.
As someone, like, I don't particularly pay attention to the fighting game space. As someone from the outside looking in, I pretty much see it as Evo is like the big time, and that's like it, basically.
That's it.
Maybe
like, no, you're right. I mean,
that's
what I think that's pretty much what a lot of people outside looking in would agree with. Like, the Evo is the big one, but then you have things like you have Combo Breaker, you know, you have CEO, you have these events, but you know, you just wouldn't know about it if you weren't looking if you weren't involved. But
crazy.
We sound like the crazy old guys on the lawn, huh? I'll tell you.
Well, let's
see
move
that soldier
on.
line. Young punks, get off my lawn.
I'll touch on this like super briefly because this isn't like earth shattering or anything, but I thought it was interesting. Blizzard announced their all access pass for Overwatch League on Twitch. And there was a bit of controversy around this. I'm trying to pull up the actual text. Here we go. So basically you pay something like $30 a season and you get some behind the scenes content. You get some VODs, some extra VODs, match day, AMAs for subscribers. But the big thing was it gives you what they're calling the Overwatch League Command Center. And this is word for word. It is a second screen match day live stream featuring alternate in-game camera angles, backstage cameras, player POVs, and real-time stats. So to me, I'm thinking, well, it's about goddamn time. Like, CSGO's had this forever. Like, I want to be able to control my viewing experience. I don't want to rely on the sometimes questionable observers of OWL. And everybody's like, this is great. Like, I'm going to buy this immediately, insta buy. And then first week of stage 3 comes out and everybody's like, what the fuck? I'm just getting a little pane with some stats on it. Where's my control? How do I pull up, Sadie Olby's POV? I want to watch the master at work, right? And then Blizzard's like, oh, yeah. You actually can't control anything and you can't stream just one player's POV. When we said player POVs, we didn't actually mean player POVs. And so
wow,
that was just, I'm just like, guys, how do you screw that up? Like, you literally said player POVs. Now I understand they're saying it's a spectator limitation. Like with the game itself, the client can only handle so many direct spectators, and those are already taken up by the official stream observers. But I feel like this is something they need to figure out eventually. And I don't know why I should have to pay $30 for it when CSGO does it for free. But regardless, if I am paying $30, I definitely expect to be able to control what POV I'm looking at. Because anytime I try to introduce Overwatch League to people, there's inevitably the issue of 80% of the footage is Tracer or Genji POV. And it's exciting. It's dive comp. They're the ones getting the kills, pulling out the sword, throwing the shurikens. But,
what else did you want to watch?
But you show, I just really love a good Mercy stream, man. Holding down that left click. But no, it's like sometimes maybe I want to watch Muma diving in on Winston. Or maybe I'm just tired and I don't want to watch Tracer blinking around all over the place.
It needs to be fixed.
It just give me that control, especially if I'm paying for it.
Yours are horrendous. We lose now.
Nope,
okay.
nope. Sorry, had a little bit of a blink there.
Man.
I gotta fix my
you're
internet.
Fine, man. Be yourself. Just be yourself, bud.
You said what's horrible?
The spectator tools are horrendous.
Yep.
Like my favorite thing, like I have not touched Dota in forever, but when the international comes along,
Dota TV, man,
I will gladly watch it from the in-game tools, like the in-game, because it's so great.
Yep.
See it in the full quality of what you want it to see it in. You can just switch to camera views and you can get your commentators. Like,
I mean, it seems like Overwatch already has it set up because you can start spectating when your friends' games, and you could cycle through until you get to your friend's character and watch their point of view. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think their excuse was like what Nick said was the slots available. Mm-hmm. And then the problem is that what do? You add a delay to end game? Like, there's just so many different but it's just like you should have just had better tools to begin with.
Yep. Especially,
this needs to be better thought through.
CS 1.6 back in the day, you would connect to an HLTV server, which was a server that just did the recording. It was on a minute and a half delay. You had no commentary, but you had the freedom to literally free look, watch anyone else's perspective, go third person, hit tab to see the overview of the map. And this was like 15 years ago.
I agree. This is something that Overwatch League should have had day one going into season 1, because the game is already set up to give you all those views anyway. It should have been figured out how to just get that extra box and have it included in the stream.
Kadronic brings up a great point, though. If only they could work with whoever makes the game and is in charge of the client to fix that issue.
Yep.
Oh, man. No, but Blizzard in true Blizzard fashion, they're going to fix it. They're going to make it amazing. And then eventually they'll just refund people or give them stuff in game that everyone will be excited about. That's it.
Yeah.
And no one will remember.
Some kind of we're sorry skin.
And they did already announce actually that this pass is going to include a select number of like away skins for each team.
Which are the best skins ever, which is ridiculous.
The most iconic ones. So it's like McCree for XL. I can't remember all of them, but it's like
I think Jonak is the
Oh, is that
XL
what it is? Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely.
They should just rename that character to Jonak.
Yeah, exactly. He even sounds like an Omnic, right? He plays like a robot for sure.
It sounds more Omnic than Zenyatta, though.
I think actually the two Omnics, like Zenyatta Mundata, is like a reference to like a Pink Floyd song or something like that.
I'll have to look that up. while you're looking it up right now.
I am looking it up right now. Third studio album by English rock band The Police. So I was not even close, but it was a music reference.
There you go.
Don't shoot me. I'm a musical retard. Okay.
Well, the last bit of news we had was I think it's, again, not necessarily earth shattering. It's kind of a surprise, but Fuel's release of their coach and DPS are Rascal.
And Kai.
You know what?
Coach.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Their coach. Coach and DPS are Rascal.
I think what's his name was Monty probably hit up the nail on the head the most, right? He tweeted about it, saying like, how do you switch the role of who the coach is? They show improvement, and then you let go of the guy like a few weeks later. Like, how could you what kind of decision making is that? Dallas is in all kinds of like fiasco because they were, I think, looking into stage 1, people were like, they're going to be a good team. Look at that roster. They have a lot of skilled players, and then it was just like all downhill since
they
day
were
1.
the best Western team coming into it from Apex. Like Envious was awesome.
And maybe that's why you overreact to these things. But didn't he just get the coaching position?
I think he's had it for the whole. Has he
had it for halfway through stage 2, and
So he didn't even get to play a full actual stage.
That's ridiculous, man.
Something might have happened behind closed doors. Then that's the only thing I can think of.
Especially when you consider that this is not like promotion, relegation, LCS. This is a franchise league. Like it is.
Yeah, you're good.
It is okay to build for long-term growth. Like I can understand if you're like on the cusp of playoffs, but they're not.
No, they're not.
This is specifically what they said. And there was one really interesting part. We have not replicated the championship level of success in the Overwatch League that we had in Contenders as Envious. While we recognize many of the challenges Kyle faced with the Dallas Fuel were beyond his control, there comes a time when change is necessary for the team to move forward, and we felt that time is now. So what that says to me is we don't know why we're losing, and we're just
taking a guess.
Yeah, shot in the dark. And I think Hastro kind of knows that everybody's kind of fed up with Fuel's bullshit. He's got an AMA going on sometime this week. I don't know, but it's like, dude, you need to come clean, man. Because at first you had no communication. Then you had way too much communication and transparency, especially with all your players airing out all their dirty laundry on stream. And now you're making all these crazy roster moves. With Rascal, like 2 weeks ago, they benched him for essentially being over enthusiastic, like causing problems like with his passion and aggression on team, and now you're letting him go because he's not caring enough. Thinking emoji.
Yeah, I didn't really understand the Rascal move. I honestly thought he was one of their better DPSers. So far this stage, the end of the last stage when he joined the team, like he definitely seemed to be helping out. Every time he took the stage and filled that role, they won those maps. I really thought like, hey, whatever you guys are doing with Rascal, keep it up. You guys, it's working. I thought the Mickey Siegel tank combo was working pretty well. Honestly, don't really know how I feel about OGE yet. I guess I'll give him a few more weeks before I make an opinion. But I honestly thought that this is huge steps in the wrong direction for Dallas. Mm-hmm. I just could not understand why they would make these moves.
And I think
stability is the best thing any team can have. And when you're constantly changing everything, like, so I keep referencing Smash. That's the kind of the background I come to. So in Smash Brothers and a lot of FGC, you pick a stage after you lose, and they're relatively they're counter picks. So you want to benefit yourself in winning, and the run back or going back to the same exact stage is sometimes like frowned upon because it's like, oh, you just lost on there. But my commentary partner, Apollo, brings up this point where he's like, if you take a minute to think about it and then you go back to the same stage, all you're doing is you're negating variables. And that's good, right? Like you want to put yourself, if you feel like you lost because you played badly and you go back to the stage and you make the corrections you need, you can have a better performance. You're playing the same maps in these Overwatch League, you're playing against the same rosters, you're playing with the same roster, so it's like constantly overturning without giving an opportunity to see how things change as you progress and try new things with the coach. Like you're going back to square one every single time.
Yep. And like, how does that make you feel as somebody that, survives the purge this time? It's like, well, shit, man, like there's no security for me on this team. Like maybe Hastro wakes up on the wrong side of the bed and just says, you know what? We're losing because of Seagull this week. Bye. And Kajanate brought up an interesting thing in chat saying that he heard that the coach and Seagull were butting heads. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but I can certainly believe it with all the drama and issues this team has had.
Yeah, it's been.
Oh yeah, and I mean, just a few weeks ago they were talking about cutting Coco and Taimu, and I mean, like you said, nobody's safe on this team. It seems like.
Could you imagine you cut Taimu?
Oh my god, man!
How quick would he just be picked up? Like immediately. And then that makes you look even worse. Because
then you can't unlock that player, and he
like
could
the
do
faster you cut someone and they get picked up, the dumber your decision looks. And he would be picked up in an instant. There wouldn't even be time for it to break news. He'd just be on another team.
I really think the only reason Rascal wasn't picked up was, he tweeted he was going back to Korea. I don't know what his intentions of going back to Korea are, if he's going to go back to an old team and play some more somewhere else or what. But, it was obvious that he had made up his mind. He didn't want to be a part of the Overwatch League anymore. So, good luck, whatever you do, Rascal. I'm going to miss you. You were like the best May in the league. I loved watching that,
I got rid of the best May right after she got buffed. Unbelievable.
Oh my god, he was so awesome on May. Like he just would create all kinds of chaos that you couldn't counter.
Well, do we have any more news before we get on to the NYXL segment?
That's all I got.
So yeah, big shakeups for the Fuel. As always, it seems. Hopefully once the player transfer window closes, if it hasn't already, maybe we'll get some roster stability from them, but it's like, guys, just cut your losses and just build for the long term.
I don't know. At this point, it's kind of making me go, let's start playing a game of who's going to be on the Fuel next week.
Yep. Crazy stuff, man. Fuel's bad, man.
Fuel's bad, man.
Feels bad.
All right. So yeah, let's start talking about NYXL. So Mess actually wrote a pretty awesome article about Libero that I'll link in the chat. Yeah, man, take it away. Why don't you give us like a synopsis of the article? Why'd you choose to write about Libero?
So it's one of those things where, so it kind of hit me a couple weeks ago. One of my best friends, Reno, who's a top 100 Smash player, he was a big fan of Seoul Dynasty when the league started. And then he went to go see Overwatch League live because he's over in San Fran. So he took the drive down and got to watch New York play. And the first two things he goes like, Jonak is so good and Sabiobi and all this other stuff. And it became apparent that everyone forgets about Libero. And I kind of, as someone that watched all these sets kind of unfold, I was just kind of in the headspace of, well, that's not right. I just don't get what people are seeing on the screen that doesn't show off how talented of a player he is. So I wrote it as kind of like this is why New York is so good, and it's not the player that you would expect it to be. And it goes into the fact that he is probably the most flexible player in the league in terms of player pool or hero pool. He's even played Zenyatta for the XL at some point, which is terrifying considering you got Jonak on the screen already.
No pressure.
And one thing that I really hit on, and we talk about pressure, is when it was time for New York to turn the wheels on the thing against Philly in game 3, 4, and 5, they did not pick Pine or Sabiobi to deal with Carpe's Widowmaker. It was Libero. Libero stepped up, and at the time, Libero had more hours on Zenyatta than he did on Widowmaker for the New York XL. So he stepped into that role against what a lot of people would argue is one of the best Widowmakers, up there with probably Fleta and Pine.
Linkser.
And and he won.
I would argue Saya player.
Just all the widows. They're all great, man.
So like one quick stat is that I believe it was game 4. Carpe was a -7 in KD, and I know KD is like a fickle thing, right? You get made fun of in the chat if you are negative, and if you're positive, no one really cares. Well, Carpe was a -7, and 4 of them were directly due to Libero countering him hard, and you can tell the turnaround was right there. It also completely gave Sabiolbi and Jonak the ability to just run Fusion over. They were -11 in the first 2 games. They finished positive 33 in map 4 and 5 combined. And he's the reason why New York has this flexibility, and then their roster depth is out of control, and that's why I think New York right now will end up probably winning season 1. Because
I think it's a pretty safe bet.
I think everybody agrees with you there.
Well, they didn't when it first started. And there's a couple key reasons of why New York is probably the best team out there and will end up being the best team. And if they're not, it's not going to be any better for the rest of the league anyway, because they're not going anywhere. And their roster has a lot to do with it because of the flexibility across the map. Pine is probably the most electrifying man in sports entertainment since Dwayne Johnson. And the thing is, he's a bench player. And me and Nick were talking about it. There's a chance he could be traded when you really think about it, because Flower comes up next season. And Flower is being talked about as the best player on the roster that hasn't shown time yet due to age. And Jonak is just an absolute animal. He's the only Zenyatta in Overwatch League with a positive KD against Tracers, which is
insane. Just like ridiculous.
Dumb. It's just dumb. He also is, this was from a few weeks ago, so this could have changed, but he was also the only Zenyatta in the league that averaged more damage than healing, and that's not a detriment. That's just how much damage he pumps out for his team. But he allows their roster, Libero allows their roster to just do what they want. You know, the problem with Pine coming off the bench is you had to kind of sub out Sabiolbi, because Sabiolbi and Pine play the same characters. So if you subbed out Libero, you were stuck with 2 players that played the same pool. So you had Widow, McCree, and Tracer. And that is, and I'm not saying they're not capable of playing other characters. I think SBB is probably some next level demigod of mechanics, so he would have figured it out. But you are limiting what your team can do.
You're not playing your potential.
Absolutely. Libero played 6 characters alone against the Fusion, and he switched 8 times. So he answers the call of, we need this character countered. We need this type of change in our meta play. And let's SBB and Pine just do what they do best, which is click heads. So that's the reason why he's so impressive. And in a way, Arc does the same thing for Jonak. And I initially, when I was writing the article, I really wanted to include Arc and talk about how Arc does the same thing on a support sense, where he's completely forgotten because he plays Mercy. And you pointed it out before, 90%.
I wouldn't say he's forgotten. I've said it in this show before that, like, he is hands down the best Mercy in the league.
It's
like,
so funny,
look at him and look at everyone else, and it's like there's Arc and then there's everybody else. He is a battle Mercy and healing on a level that nobody else is.
It's actually so funny that you mentioned that, because, you know, I think a lot of people only know Arc because he's the one with the microphone at the end of these big sets, right? They always ask Arc what he feels about it, and he just is a really honest player, and he'll toot his own horn and the team's horn, and I think people, you know, the team really rallies around that. But the flexibility of the roster is insane. You know, Sabiolbi has played Hog this in the season. Pine has played Hog. Pine didn't play at all in stage 2, and it was like nothing really. It didn't matter. You had this spark plug. It was almost like a guaranteed victory on the King of the Hill control style maps, where you would just bring in Pine, he'd come in with McCree, and you'd win. And they lost that kind of that advantage they had on a lot of teams, and it didn't matter. And in fact, that's when they won stage 2 finals. They didn't need Pine. And the team is just gonna get scarier. And I'm excited to see Flower come up. And that's why, and I mentioned it with Nick off podcast, and I'll mention it on now. New York is really interesting because they can pick Flower kind of like a first round draft pick that an organization could, and say, what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to throw him in there and have him just straight into the flames. I'm going to do what I did with Pine. I'll put him in for a map or 2. I'll get him acquainted to the Overwatch League. Let him adjust to a higher skill level rather than Challenger. let him see what the play is like here, and then little by little, Flower can just take his spot on the roster, and no other team has the luxury of doing that.
Yeah.
They can't ease their players, and they need victories, and they need them quickly. And it was kind of funny because you almost wonder if winning stage 2 kind of gave New York the idea of maybe trying some of that stuff now, because Pine is back. They introduced Animo.
Sure.
I know I was gonna butcher it.
Anime.
Another Mercy. Another yes, the power of anime and God on my side. Another Mercy. So they shook up their support lineup, which hasn't changed since the season started. And you kind of wonder if winning stage 2 kind of unleashed this idea of we're gonna give other players a shot, get them back into the role, and they can play with it. It is kind of crazy to think how strong they are compared to a lot of the rosters in the league. Even after losing this week, you're not worried. You know what I'm saying? They lost to Boston 3-2, and you're like, they'll figure it out. And you kind of wonder if they'll just kind of rally off a couple 4-0s and ease everyone's mind now.
Yeah.
I don't know if any other team has that kind of firepower yet.
Yeah, I mean,
it's safe to say nobody does.
Yeah.
If we were talking about like Houston and the issues they have at Tracer, and how much better is that team if they trade whoever for a Tracer?
Any Tracer.
A Tracer.
Or
and you just have Jake play whoever he wants. Yeah. And you have to wonder if Libero was on a team like Houston, are they automatically the best team on their side? You almost have to give them a couple more wins. These 3-2s that they've been losing, you flip 2 of them easily. They'd be 3-1 right now, maybe 4-0. And that's what Libero brings to a team. And the best way to kind of, I know you wanted a quick explanation of the article, is Libero is the perfect Robin to any Batman, but he has the potential to just be Nightwing when he needs to be. And that's what Libero brings to the. That's what he brings to the roster.
That analogy in this context is like the nerdiest thing I've ever heard, and it's awesome.
It's the truest thing.
It's perfect though. I get it.
Perfect.
That's what Libero brings to the team. I love watching him. And I love that the day I posted the article, like Overwatch League is posting a clip of him playing McCree, and then the next clip is him playing Widow. And I'm like, I love it. Like he doesn't even. I don't even know why they're playing his Widow. Like I didn't even know, because you just saw SBB or Pine playing Widow all of stage 1 and 2, and all of a sudden he's just like, nah, I got it. It's fine. I'll do it. But I love what New York is doing. I think it's going to be interesting next season. I love Pine, but I do wonder what they're going to do with him. And if New York is going to maybe almost have a complete secondary roster for certain matchups where they
just so
spin
stacked,
Pine and
man.
Yeah.
Like so much more than any other team. It's almost like, what are you going to do with all that talent?
Once Flower hits the rosters, which I'm assuming it's going to be season 2. I don't know what his birthday is.
I think
that's it. Rosters are locked, right?
It's going to be season 2 at the earliest.
When Flower hits season 2, it'll be. I can't recall in like esports, especially because like it's such a fresh sort of like audience and history, like, right? It's happening in front of us. But I can't recall a player with that high of expectations, but has already been battle tested, because Flower, you can argue, single-handedly carried South Korea against the US at the World Cup.
Yep.
Flower came in there, and when Sinatra and Jake were going off and really putting South Korea up against the burners and really just challenging them in every single position, and Hanamura was like, that was it, right? The US had this set against South Korea, and Flower just shows up out of nowhere, and the entire crowd, which is obviously US biased, just couldn't help themselves. They were just freaking out watching this kid come out there. And that roster for South Korea had like 3 members of Seoul Dynasty and 3 members of XL. So he started on that roster. And you want to talk about talent. You know what I'm saying? Like, when Fletta's your off DPS, when you're working with Fletta, that's your main dude helping you out. Like, that's terrifying. Sabiobi was on that roster too. Like, they're gonna be a force going forward, and I think we might be seeing, I don't know, a kind of like a staple of what teams should be aiming for. You know, and it's interesting too, because New York was not like that coming into the league. They were most people 3rd or 4th pick in terms of skill. And they had a bad reputation from the days of LW Blue where they couldn't win the big one. And Stage 2 finals kind of wiped that away, and that's kind of scary for opponents out there.
Yeah, totally. It's going to be, I mean, we've already seen some craziness from them this season, and I just can't even imagine having that much talent in that roster plus Flower. Before I'd even knew who Flower was, I just saw a bunch of people describing him as he is the best Overwatch player in the world, like just in general, period, full stop. And I was like, well, that's pretty scary that he's on XL's roster.
Yeah, it makes you shudder to think, like, what are teams gonna do? And if the meta changes, so that's another thing, right? Like if the meta changes, that's another thing that makes it really frustrating for, I think, a lot of these teams in Overwatch League. I think Houston would benefit from a meta change, because you're taking Jake off of a position where, like, I read somewhere that someone was like, oh, at least he wasn't a complete liability, and it's like, you shouldn't be thinking about that for your best player. Like, he's the best Junkrat on the planet. He's one of the best DPSs on the planet.
Yep.
Anytime you think of him as a liability, even or not a liability, that's the problem, you know? So if the meta goes away from this full dive, which I think with the introduction of Brigitte and these patch changes, I think it'll probably head away from that a little bit. There'll be some more, I don't know, she's terrifying. I don't know what she's gonna do to the league.
She seems,
She's
I don't want to say
OP, before they let her out.
but
no, she needs to catch a nerf before they let her go.
She is strong.
She is very strong. Well, it's terrifying because she plays like not a support, you know, but she can pump out heals and great armor attributions for her team, but she can just whack you in the face.
She does damage, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, she is a DPS and a half. I mean, they advertise her as a support who can do a little off tanking, but then you just see her and she's smashing people with the.
She's very impressive.
Mace, and you're just one shotting a tracer to the head with that. You know,
like if she gets on you, man, especially with that shield slam, like the health pool is almost deceptive, right? Because you think it's this like, what is she, like 250, 300 HP, and you're like, oh, I can probably take her, and it's like, no, man, like she's gonna heal up while she beats you down.
Yeah, I think the meta change could benefit a team like Houston more than anything. Teams that don't really run dive really well are gonna love this patch coming up, because that's what Brigitte is. She's anti-dive. You know, she can one-hit tracers. She can stop Genji reflex in the back line. She can really just kind of oppress anyone that's gonna try to kill your healers. But that's probably the only reason I think if I'm New York, I hold on to Pine. Because then if the meta does change and there's some other heroes in the pool that just get stronger, like a Widow, you know, you have no dive, Widow's better. So you got Pine, you got Flower, you got SBB, you got Libero. Are you kidding? Like, what do you don't even have enough characters for them to play. That's the real problem. So
yeah,
you know, that could be scary really quick, but if you hold on to them, also, I don't think a lot of teams realize like the benefit of just taking a break, right? Like you go like if you go stage finals, right, and you have to work your way into the finals, you didn't get the bye, and you're playing 10 games basically, if you get all the way to game 5 twice, having a fresh player that's just mentally not fried, you know, having them step in like Pine and being that good off the bench, that can change the entire dynamic of a game. I think Snillo was the reason the Fusion lost. You took Snillo off when he was playing so hot. And then you made a sub that wasn't needed. Like, substitutions are so huge, and I don't understand like why some teams do them and some teams just are so stubborn to play with their this is my starting 6 and this is what I have to do. Like, it's one of those things where New York kind of has it all blanketed. I think London is up there. Like, they have depth. I don't know if they're feeling things out. They're having a hard time right now. But Philly should have never have substituted Snello. They should have kept him in. He played really well game 2. They subbed him out for game 3, and then me and like a couple people watching in Discord were just kind of confused. But having a fresh explosion off the bench is so awesome for teams. And I think that's what Houston's lacking. You know, Yeah, I think that's what maybe
Well, they got one, but they need to just, like, you know, Amicus said, they just need to give him a chance to play. Let Mendo out.
I feel like they're never going to play him.
He's
ever.
Fresh. You can't talk about a fresher player. He hasn't played.
There are, you know what? It wouldn't even be a bad idea. Like if you play against Shanghai, right? If you're Houston, you have Shanghai on the roster, and you have Florida.
One map, man. One map.
Not even a map. It wouldn't be a bad idea to just give Jake a week off. Give Jake a day off. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have a team that you know you just completely melt. Like if Shanghai has no business taking maps from Houston, right? If you can't beat Shanghai and you're Houston without Jake, you need to reevaluate your roster. You need to reevaluate what you're doing as a team. And there are a lot of teams. I keep going back to Houston because I feel like if you're not talking about New York in the Overwatch League nowadays, you're talking about Houston, right? Like I feel like those are the two teams that people love.
Example.
It's so weird. It's so weird. People love the both of them, right? Those are like the fanboys of fanboys. Like
I mean, Houston is basically Team USA.
Well, I'm from New York. I am allowed to root for New York. I was born and bred in Brooklyn.
Yeah, there's no.
I didn't even look at the roster. When they announced. I was like, let's go. This is my team. I will live with them. I will die with them.
Unfortunately, there's no like Baltimore crack dealers. So I can't really, I don't have like a home team to root for.
But see, like I could argue the fact that like, you know, as well as Saya player and Tavik played this week and they did a pretty decent job. I was disappointed in Florida benching Logix. Logix has been so damn hot since like the last few weeks.
I was asking Nick, do you trade for Logix if you're Houston?
I mean,
I don't think they would trade him, to be honest. I mean, I actually found out because I hit Logix up. I was just like, dude, why aren't you even playing? You know, because I'm in his Discord, so I was just like, why aren't you playing? He's like, I've actually been sick this week, and I was like, oh, okay. So now I understand.
I know why Florida might want to trade him, but I'm saying if you're Houston, would you trade for Logix to solve the issue?
If I was Houston, I would be trying to, but I don't think Florida will do it. I don't think Florida would trade Logix.
Either play Mendo or get a Tracer. Like
you have to.
You can't stay in this like status quo and be like, well, we just hope the Jake Rat's basically a Tracer, like those concussion mines, he can blink forward, right?
And let me tell you something. Jake is incredible. Like it's not even to take away from him. It just happens to be a character that maybe he's not comfortable on or just doesn't really like
it just doesn't work for him.
It doesn't work for him. That's fine.
You're not going to ask like Sabiolbi to play Winston.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
I can't play Genji or Doomfist, and I know that, but
like look at Pine. Pine is literally known for two characters. He probably could play a plethora of more, but why would you want him to?
You don't need him to.
Right? Like you don't need him to. And I'm wondering, like,
you have Seagull tanking.
Yeah, with all of the drama around Dallas, if I'm Houston, I'm calling for Effect. I'm making phone calls.
Oh my god.
I'm making with all the drama.
Well. I mean, they're letting go of everybody else. You might as well try to pick up.
If they cut Taimu, watch how fast Houston picks him up and makes a project out of it.
Effect actually had a really interesting tweet this morning. It's basically something about like, I can't trust anybody on this team. Like, this is a terrible environment. Like, he's not happy. My Korean's a little rusty, but
well, that was one of my, like, when you said Effect, like, this is my only concern with it. Effect is one of those insanely emotional players, and you can watch it in his play style. When he starts to get pissed off and things aren't quite going the way he hoped, like, it registers in the.
But that's why you have subs, man.
Like
they're humans, you know. They have emotions. That's why you sub in. That's why it's so crazy.
I understand that.
Yeah,
what I'm getting at is like if Houston were to try to make a project out of Effect, that would be one of those things they need to address. Figuring out how to channel that rage, get it into a positive tunnel that can be focused into something that the team can make stuff out of, rather than the Effect mistakes that have been made in general when Effect starts to get a little antsy.
Houston's got a Korean coach. They got Tyrong. They've got a mental health coach. They've got a good support staff. I mean, I think they could make it work.
Now, I don't want to lie. I don't want to like put a facade up because you guys know more about Overwatch League than I do. I'm not going to front. I'll admit that. No problem. Is there a cap to the roster size, or is it just basically budget?
12.
12 is the cap, and it's after that. Most teams don't have 12. Most teams have much less. But no, in fact, it's for budgeting, right?
London had 12, and they've ended up trading, I think, like 3 or 4.
Yeah, but it's mostly just for budget. Like they're not.
I think it was kind of
like
trying to make sure that nobody got out of hand, just stacking up on all these good players.
If you're
20
guys
like, on your roster.
No, I meant more like most teams. The reason they're not holding 12 is because of just budgeting. They don't feel like there's a need to pay an extra player.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not going to play somebody,
So that's what just blows my mind. It's like, if you're Dallas, why are you throwing away these players?
Yeah.
It's nothing but money, right? Like if I know that sounds like crazy, but in any other sport, if it's just a money thing,
Mm-hmm.
you just hold on to it because you don't want someone else to get another man's treasure. You know what I'm
So,
saying? Like, why would you want to throw
I
that
think
away?
not
it's
only that,
important.
but I'm sure at this point Dallas is probably contractually obligated to at least pay out X amount to each of these players they're letting go at this point. You know, I mean, so if you've got a $50,000 base salary or whatever, they've already played more than half the season. You're not going to the playoffs, you know that. So they've played more than half of your games already. I think at that point they would probably be contractually obligated to at least
I don't know. I
pay
feel like
out
if
some
you're
of
cutting
that,
them, if you're cutting them just to
the
save money,
guarantees,
it
so to
makes no
speak.
sense. Like, you try to get something out of it. Try to make a trade. Try to make, you know what I'm saying? I feel like just getting rid of stuff, overturning all these rosters, and not getting something in return is like the worst thing you could do in any sport.
I think
And it
it's
shouldn't be
I
any
mean,
different. It shouldn't be any different in esports. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, get something in return. I don't know. Even if it's like a random contender player that no one's ever heard of, if you put them in the right environment, all of a sudden they can flourish. Why not take the risk on that?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Dallas is one of the endemic orgs coming into the league. You're talking about Envious versus like the New England Patriots, New York Mets, whatever. Yes, Envious has been around a long time, but they're obviously, a speck compared to those kinds of organizations. And I think that Overwatch League, without a doubt, is the biggest investment that Envious has made into any of their
Yeah,
teams.
that goes without saying.
And understandably, I think that Hastro is freaking out a little bit because not only has his team had a very successful history in console esports like Call of Duty, one of the best teams I think in the history of the sport, and in contenders and Apex, the best Western team coming into the league, and to all of a sudden hit this brick wall where you just are like a bottom 3 team. If I'm Hastro, I'm freaking out, man. Like, I got 20 million. I got to keep Papa Jack in the Box happy, right? Like, I need that cheeseburger money coming back to my pocket. And so,
well, yeah, no, like that's a great example too. They were the first team with a sponsor. I mean, they came into the league with a sponsor. Nobody else did.
Fine, take the Jack in the Box money. It's just interesting. Like, it's so funny because you do want to look at the goal of Overwatch League, right? Like, I'm sure the inception idea of it was we want to treat it like an actual traditional sport.
yep.
We want teams, we want cities, we want rosters, we want salaries. Like, we want to
Home
do
and
everything
away
the right way.
games. Yep.
Yeah. And what's so funny is like there are still things you have to consider of this team you're right, maybe this team just can't afford to keep an extra player on the roster. And I do think that maybe a lot of the cuts at Dallas were because of just toxicity and just like that. It's becoming a little bit of a cesspool over there, and I'm sure it'll be very interesting to see what season 2 brings for them because season 1's pretty much lost.
And I just think it's so interesting because if you're somebody that's not the source of any of this drama, like look at Mickey, like how long are you going to have?
Human being. Yeah.
He's an angel. How long are you going to have somebody stay that positive source of optimism when they're surrounded by constant cuts, bickering, infighting? You can't maintain
it's so insane.
Any kind of a growth atmosphere that way.
Me and you are simpatico because earlier today I was watching some highlights from the Dallas set, and I was like, I hope they trade Mickey, just to get him free. You know what I'm saying? Like, not because he deserves it, because like he needs to be out of that. Could you imagine?
No,
there's so many teams that could benefit from having that kind of positivity and that kind of.
I was going to say what he deserves is a team that
100%. There are some players like that. Yeah, and Jake
too good a guy
to
keep going through this.
That's an interesting point, Cadronate. I've heard of the T. Martin controversy before. I didn't realize that it was co-owned by him.
Do you know what that is, the controversy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was something about like he made the site and then he was like...
It was a gambling site.
Yeah. And he was like putting out content like he was winning a bunch of stuff when actually he was the one running it.
Yeah, so he just made it look like he was winning it.
Didn't
actually disclosed that it was his own company. And great guy.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Yep. All right. Well, we're kind of running out of time here, so let's go to
I was
next
gonna say,
week.
you ready to get into some predictions?
We'll do some quick predictions for next week. So week 3, Jesus, we're already halfway through stage 3. We got 8 more weeks, and then we are into playoffs. 8 more weeks of play. All right, so week 3. First up, we got Battle of LA rematch. LAG versus Los Angeles Valiant. What do you think, Mess?
Let me find it because I did all my predictions on the subreddit,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna tell you when I find it.
Riggs, what do
And
you
I'll
got?
give you.
I actually think this will be the return of the Gladiators as the top team in LA again. I mean, as strong as the Valiant has come out so far, and I love the addition of Bunny. I still just see the Gladiators as that unpredictable team in the league right now, and just when you least expect it, they come and knock out that high ranking team that you didn't see coming. So
I have Gladiators 3-2 over the Valiant.
yeah, I think that's a good way to go. It'll probably go 5 maps. Gladiators come out on top.
I think I'm gonna agree with you guys. I think this is gonna be a great match, regardless, because I think both, for the first time, both LA teams look to be very, very strong and almost equally strong. So I'm gonna agree with you on 3-2 Gladiators. Fuel playing the San Francisco Shock. Can't say I'm gonna stay up for that one, but what do you guys got?
I was just gonna say, does anybody care?
I just want to see
for...
if Dallas breaks out into a fist fight amongst themselves on stage.
I will stay up and watch it because A, league tokens, B, I want to make sure if I'm ever asked to do a podcast again, I know what I'm talking about. I think the Shock wins 3-2 though, because this is totally Dallas, right? Make it close, make it seem like they're riding the ship, and then they find a way to lose.
I'm gonna agree with him in a sense, but I think the Shock will have a slightly more convincing 3-1 win. Shock has been playing a little bit better lately, and I don't even know what you would call Dallas's burning spiral of doom.
I am such a fan of Dallas's burning spiral of doom. I'm gonna say 4-0 San Francisco.
Wow, that's bold, bro.
You're one of those. You want to see it become the absolute worst it possibly can. You want it to bottom out.
When it became clear it was going to be a never-ending fondue fountain of drama, I was like, you know what, man? I'm just going to stick my marshmallow right in there. That sounded oddly sexual. I'm on the ride now, man. I'm on the ride. San Francisco, Shanghai Dragons playing Seoul Dynasty.
4-0.
4-0, yeah.
Not Shanghai.
Moving on. First game on Thursday, Houston playing Florida. Now, real quick before we get into predictions, I will say, please play Mendo. Obviously he needs a map. I want him to play, period. But how sick would it be if he actually holds his own against Logix? Because it's a unique situation where this is a team that should be very beatable, that also has an excellent tracer to kind of benchmark your player against.
Yeah, but you're also forgetting the addition of Saya player, dude. I mean, I know you didn't get to watch all the Florida games this week.
I do need to catch up, so that's a very fair point.
Holy crap, dude. Honestly, I mean, I thought the only thing holding Florida back this last week was the fact of not being able to switch out to Vic and Logix a little bit with Saya player. I think having that flexibility going into this week, I know Logix is feeling better now. So I know he's going to be playing. Yeah, dude. Honestly, I kind of got to give the edge to Florida. I think that this is.
You think Florida's going to win?
Out. Yep.
Interesting.
No. I have 3-1 Houston.
Yeah, I'm going to say probably 3-1
Houston needs to right the ship immediately because they have a really bad start. But the thing is, they have the soft part of their schedule coming up. So, they can a couple 4-0s, 3-1s, and they're, right back in the hunt of it. They're not eliminated yet, even at 1 and 3.
They can't afford to drop another game. They can't, right now.
And they know that. So I think Houston's gonna take a 3-1.
All right, I'm gonna agree with you there. Boston playing London. This should be a really good match. You would hope that London can figure out how to right the ship, but Boston just took down New York.
I think London's gonna win 3-2. I don't think Boston can keep it up. I think it's a really tough stretch, and they might drop 1 or 2 along the way, and this was going to be one of them. Plus, London is like fighting for playoff life right now, and I think they understand that. Getting 4-0'd by New York wasn't a good way to start out stage 3. So I think they're going to win 3-2. I think they'll basically gain ground on the playoff hunt, and maybe we'll see some more exposed issues with Boston and after everything that happened, or maybe they'll find a way to answer the call again.
Is this a must-win for London?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. There's too many good teams now, dude.
I think so.
I'll agree that it's a must-win for London, but I think that Gamsu is better than Gesture. I think that Striker is better than Profit. And, I mean, it's really going to come down to Birdring and mistakes and who wins those duels.
I'm never going to stop laughing every time we mention mistakes like he's a person.
But honestly, I'm going to stick to the Boston guns on this one. They've bested London in the past. I think they can do so again, even with mistakes doing their shot calling. I think they'll be able to revive some of those strategies against London. I think it'll be a 3-1 Boston.
I think if they play like they did last week, I kind of feel like I'm going to go with Boston on this one, but it should be a really good match to watch either way. Philadelphia against NYXL. What do you got? I don't even have to ask Mess. He's already got the smirk going on.
Okay.
I got Excel all day, man.
What do you think the score is?
I'm gonna say 3-2.
I think this is gonna be a 4-0 shutout. Excel.
I put a 4-0 also.
Okay.
It sounds like complete bias, but it's just going by track record of how they respond to teams that have beaten them, which is not that many. Also, I do think that they figured out a lot at the end of Stage 2 finals, and not much has changed since then in terms of roster and play style and what's going on in the league. So, and New York also knows, like, they had, by their account, they had a bad week. Like, losing to Boston and then giving up 2 games to Houston, I'm pretty sure they see that as a really bad week.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure they're looking at, what is it, the number 3 spot in the stage standings right now?
And they're, like, wondering what's going on. Yeah.
Pretty pissed off, yeah.
Yeah. So don't even, like, I wouldn't be surprised if the only sub they make is Pine for 1 map, and that's it. Other than that, they're probably going to run their 6 best. They're going to run out there with Jonax and the Sabiolbis of the world and the Libros, and they're just going to run over Fusion. We'll see. That's the team that gives them the most trouble, though. Most maps taken against New York is from the Fusion. So
we'll see. Then we got Philly again playing San Francisco Shock, first game on Friday.
They bounced back and they beat them 3-1.
Yeah, easy win for Philly,
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, definitely.
Then we have Battle for the Bottom, Florida playing Shanghai Dragons.
If you guys don't pick Florida, I swear to God, I'm quitting the show.
The Shanghai Dragons.
It's your show, man. You can't quit.
The Shanghai Dragons will get their first win, 3-2.
Oh!
This is their best shot. And I think
I agree. It might be their best
and
shot.
I think
no way in hell Florida
I feel like there's
Shanghai.
no way in hell.
If
you know
Florida
what?
falls to Shanghai, I will buy a Gaguri jersey and wear it for the rest of the season.
You could buy me a Gaguri jersey. I'll wear it for the rest of the season. I just think right now, Shanghai, regardless of everything that's happening at the actual play, they're getting games, or they're getting maps, and they're actually, like, there's a lot of positivity.
They're getting 1 map a week, dude.
Listen, 1 map a week. It's confidence. They're building it. The crowd is behind them every single game. Like,
hey,
crowd wants them to win, and that accounts for
crowd
stuff.
likes an underdog.
Listen. Go ahead. If you take what?
If you take that 1 map win a week and you add all those up, that's like 3 series wins in the whole season.
And it's still like 30 points less than Florida.
All right, look, for a team that's 0-24, there's a lot of positive vibes right now. Look at Dallas. Like, they actually have wins, and there's a cesspool there. They have a lot of positive vibes. There's a lot of things going on for them that
blood.
I think there are a lot of people fighting. Listen, I think everyone in Shanghai knows that season 2 is going to be, obviously, you can't be worse than 0-50 or 0-40. I think they all see themselves as, like, this is a tryout to prove myself as this team goes forward, and we can correct the ship next season, not this season.
Yep.
But that's usually the, like, manifestation of good things. When you have a lot of younger players that are biting for spots, trying to prove stuff, you might have someone step up their game And Florida, like, come on, you can't tell me they're good.
I love them.
They have potential, but anyways.
Yeah,
So
so did Dallas.
you're saying
Dude,
Shanghai, you're saying Florida.
3-2.
I'm gonna be the tiebreaker here.
Florida sweep.
Well, you're going for Florida. We've heard your arguments.
Well, yeah, because he knows.
Nope. Stop. We're moving on.
We're moving on. Some good players.
The battery is dead. It has ceased to live. I'm gonna say Florida 3-1, but I hope to be proven. Well, they gotta win one map a week, man. I hope to be proven wrong. Like, we'll see. Boston Seoul, hell of a series this is gonna be. What do you guys got?
Boston will win 3-2 and knock pretty much like solidify that Seoul will miss the playoffs again for stage 3.
I would agree with that assessment.
Like, dude, man, you got to be hating it as a Dynasty fan. Even the
best fall down.
You manage to just barely squeak your way out of the playoffs every stage, especially when there's an extra team going in this time.
The really weird part is Seoul usually has this insanely crazy, start to their stages where they come out strong. They just, beat their opponents into submission every time. And they, get to like week 3, almost undefeated, it seems like usually. And then that's when they usually start to make their mistakes and slip up. This stage, on the other hand, and then on the other turn, Boston always starts slow and amps up towards the end of the stage and usually kind of comes close to making the playoffs, but not making it. In this particular stage, it's kind of the opposite. You have this really slow start from Seoul where they've had moments of brilliance and they've had a lot of struggles. Boston has come out hammering, just seeming like they're trying to go for that undefeated stage. Yeah, dude, the momentum is in Boston's court right now, not the Dynasty's at all. Like, you can't expect the Dynasty to bounce back from this. Not in this late in the stage. I can't see them making those adjustments.
Yep, but it'll be definitely a series to watch. So tune in for that one. And then Saturday we got London taking on LA Valiant. Do we just think London's just gonna like go winless this stage?
No, I think they're gonna win 3-2.
I think London will get the win here. Honestly, I think they'll start to put the brakes on Los Angeles. I think this will be where Los Angeles starts to fall apart this week.
It's, you know what it is? It's hard for me to believe that the only change of Bunny is that huge until I see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need a whole entire stage of like this dominance. One dude completely turned around this team, and then you could be like, oh, okay, cool. But we talked about it earlier. This 4-0 start feels really fraudulent. Like, they haven't played like
it
big
feels like a fluke.
Yet. Yeah, they have to show it against big, and they have the capability now because that's confidence, and you can't put a price on that either. So like, they're gonna have everything going their way.
Just don't be overconfident.
I think London. I don't know. I just feel like that roster is too talented, and they've been there before, so they know what it means to turn it on to another gear.
So let me ask you this: if LA Valiant gets a convincing win, whether it be 4-0 or 3-1 or whatever, but if it looks dominant and convincing over London, is the hype to be believed? Are they for real this stage? Or do they have to continue question. Or do they have to continue to prove themselves against the other top teams? Is London even a top team anymore?
Well, I think that starts to open the question then of like, was Soon really the tracer that everybody thought he was? Was really maybe LA Valiant struggles in stage 1 and 2, tracer problems. I mean, because now you're talking about hard carrying by Bunny,
I'll tell you what. If London 4-0s Boston, and then the Valiant beat London, then
so we got a chain reaction going on here.
Yeah, you need London to show that they're back on track, and just stomp out Boston, and then when you go later in the week, you need the LA to basically hang around and beat London. And at that point, any win is takeable. Like a 3-2 win is, to me, is just as good as a 4-0 win. If London has already destroyed Boston, it can't be 3-2. It has to be a 4-0. Move on to the next one. Show that the Spitfire are back on track, and then have the LA Valiant step up and beat them.
All right, you listening, Noah? That's your criteria for Messi's recommendation. All right, so now we got NYXL going up against LA Gladiators. Gladiators are looking good, but I mean, you got to go for XL, right?
3-1.
Yeah, I think that sounds about
I
right.
I think historically New York has beaten the Glads 4-0 a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of those maps were pretty close. New York owns LA. I don't think they've dropped a map to the LA teams yet. So I think
here's
Glad
where my
will at least stop that
problem
part.
comes in. The last time they played them, they were without Fisher though, and Fisher has really kind of brought out a solid, system to this team where they were able to use this aggressive dive style that you see that's popular with like Philly and stuff, and it's been playing really well, to the Gladiators' advantage. But I think if anything gives the Gladiators a chance in this, I'm not going to say an edge. I really think that all the edge excel, and this is a game they're going to win. But if there's any chance that the Gladiators have, it's going to be guys like Hydration playing those Doomfists and things like that I don't think XL really preps for it as much. Because, I mean, besides Hydration, who the hell plays a Doomfist?
Remember week one? Remember week one when we saw the Doomfist out of Dallas and we are like, this is the coolest shit ever, and it just never came to fruition on other maps.
Yeah.
Remember week one when we thought Dallas was good?
Oh no. I agree. Like I think Hydration. You know what? Like you have to throw different things and try to pressure. New York has a hard time playing against like other dive teams that are really excellent at it. That's where they seem to have issues. Like Philly was like really dictating the pace when they played against them. When London beat them, it was their dive was just better than New York's dive on offense and on defense. So that's what New York's like kind of kryptonite, if there is any, is the fact that they don't do well against dive. So if you throw in a Doomfist, that's ultra dive, that's super dive. Like that guy's crazy. So we'll see.
But I do think, what I'm saying. Like if Gladiators have a chance, it's going to be playing that insanely aggressive dive style with comps.
They got to be unexpected. They can't just play the meta.
They have to throw something out of them that XL is not expecting.
All right. So last match. Battle for Texas coming back. We missed it in stage 2. But now we got it back. Houston taking on Dallas Fuel. What do you guys think?
I think that this will probably be Dallas's most hard-fought game this stage. It'll still be an epic failure for them, but at least they're going to try. And I would be not at all surprised to see the epic meltdown of Effect during this.
What, you think he's just going to go off on stage and like...
I think he's gonna lose it. I think he's
chuck his monitor into the audience. Like, what are we talking about?
I think you're gonna see a lot of solo strategies out of Effect, just saying, "Screw these guys. I'm not even gonna try to like do something with them.
Guys, I'm going home.
1v6 this and get it done." But it's not gonna work. But you will see this epic meltdown from Effect.
Dallas will win 4-0. I'm kidding.
You son of a bitch.
It's so funny. Nick has such a love for Houston. I think it's going to be 3-2 Houston because Dallas it's not even like a gripe against Houston. I think they're way better. Just Dallas just always finds a way to friggin' push the game 5 against good teams and then blow it. It's crazy. It is actually, if you flip a couple of those sets that Dallas has had, we talk about a completely different team and atmosphere and
standings,
everything around them. Yeah, completely. So I think Houston 3-2.
All right. Well, we are absolutely out of time here, so we'll wrap this up real quick. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. We really appreciate it. This is our first live podcast recording, so really appreciate the comments. Cadronate especially, you're the MVP, man. Thanks for sticking around. My co-host Riggs, where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me in game Riggs number 11720 or at OneEyeWillie82 on Twitter.
What about you, Mess? Where should people look you up?
Twitter, MessiNYC. That's MESSINYC. If you want my BattleNet, it's MessiNYC and it's 1871. That's pretty much it. Twitter is probably the best way to reach me, and I'll probably be trying to do more articles, more pieces like that, and just post them on Medium and kind of get it out there in subreddits.
So man, that's a super good article, bro.
Yep. I appreciate that.
And for everybody here, my name is Amicus. You can find me on Twitter and Twitch right here at Magic of Limbo, or in game at Magic of Limbo number 1766. Had to think there for a second.
And that's Magic with a K, guys.
Magic with a K.
Magic with a K.
And they're possibly streaming this from now on that channel, so you should probably go follow it and all the promotional things that he should be doing right now and helping him out.
Yep. You are.
Don't forget, if you guys got any questions or concerns for the podcast, you can always email us at owlbreakitdown@gmail.com.
Yes, please.
Or tweet us at
Comments,
owlbreakdown.
questions, we love it all.
Give us your predictions, your feedback. We love it. Can't get enough. So, always hit us up. Let us know what you guys think, or if there's special things you want us to talk about, we'll hit those up too.
All right. Thanks, guys. We are out.